You know what I love about podcasting? I always say this in different parts of my intros. We get to meet some amazing men and women in the space, 8.5 years, Mitchell Port and Leash podcast. Today I'm here and I'm joined by Kerstin Schulze. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks, Rory.
Yeah. You do a lot. I feel like I could call you a Renaissance woman. You do a lot. So give us a little short story of who you are and what it is you do.
I'm a fit creator. That's what I call myself, or KS365 is my nickname because I'm in shape 365 days a year. And I'm a mother, an entrepreneur. I've been in the corporate world. I started my own businesses, and I have immense drive. And I love to listen to people because people tell you what they need. And if you listen really well, then you can help them. And that's what I've done with my party and diet because I believe we all want to have a good party, but we also need to dial it in every now and then.
Woo. Look, we're not even a minute into the podcast. And I know the audience are going to be sitting here like, well, there's going to be some value. I think this is just going to be a very good conversation just around active lifestyle, content creation, just a lot that you do, the ebbs and flows and balances and things like that. So I want to starting off now. When we talk about health, we talk about fitness, right? Do you believe from your personal expertise, calories or intake, should we be drinking our calories when we're looking at ebbs and flows of life and the things that we're doing?
Depends on what the calorie is. Not every calorie is the same. You can drink a soda pop calorie or you can drink a shake calorie, and depends on what the calorie is. Yeah, is it a calorie that nourishes your body, or is it a calorie that harms your body? So I always say I love my shakes now. Never did when in my 20s and 30s. I was a sponsored athlete and I just didn't like them. Didn't like the way they taste, didn't fill me. I was a chewer. I liked it protein bars or give me a real meal. But I do like protein shakes now. And I can just put a lot more protein in it because as I'm 6'1" and I need to eat 175 grams of protein a day, and it's hard to eat 175 grams of protein if I don't want to eat all day long and I don't want to have a gut bloated. So drinking a shake where I can pack 50 grams of protein in is much easier.
Love that you say that. And the reason why I asked that question is because I think that you have folks that go to work, they are content creators, they're entrepreneurs, they're doing all these different things. And they're like, how do I manage what I put in my body? Right? It can't just be the sugary stuff, but it's like, should I blend my fruit? Should I go on these fancy things that, these diets and these phases? And I feel like from my personal training background, I'm always like, listen, you got to be able to know how to maintain and balance because what may work for one person is not going to work for yourself. And you have
I
to understand and you need to know how to build into your body, build into the ecosystem, things like that, because that's your temple, right? So if you're going to put bad stuff in your body, well, then what's going to happen? You're not going to sleep right. You're going to be cranky. You're going to be miserable. You're not going to want to be a functioning human being. You know what I mean? And things like that.
I agree with you completely. No two bodies are the same, and you got to know what is the person's lifestyle and what is their stress level, what age are they, how much testosterone do they still have, how much hormonal balance do they have or not. I think all of that plays a part in it. What is your cultural DNA? Because I'm German, I do really well on meat and potatoes, but some people need fish and they need a South Beat diet. Some people just, when you're in your 50s, you got to stay lower on your sugars, even complex carbs, because we don't have as much testosterone, and especially women that have estrogen and progesterone problems. But when we're in our 20s, we can get away with things. And then we look back and we're like, well, I could get away with anything in my 20s. Well, because your muscle was burning really fast, your testosterone was really high, and that's why you could get away with it. But it doesn't mean it was healthy. You just trained your body to weather the storm, so to say, and help itself clean itself. And then
No,
when you
absolutely.
hit 30, you get all these injuries. You're wondering why. Well, because you punished your body really in your 20s instead of learning how to help your body to be really at its best. So I always say, find out who you are and find somebody that understands the human body really well and has the experience. I always teach what I have experienced myself so I can relate to it and help people. I can't, like when I was in my 30s, I couldn't talk about menopause. I didn't know what that felt like.
There's a lot there because that's actually one of the things I wanted to go into. But let's scale it back to Steven a little bit. You say you're 6'1", Germany,
Mhm.
living out there, things like that growing up. Was there one sport you like catered to that you were like, because I feel like when I hear 6'1" and you're a lady, first thing I'm like basketball at least. So you were playing basketball on the court, or was it more soccer? What was it?
I grew up with soccer. My brother always had to take me with him and the boys to play soccer. I was a tomboy, but I did play basketball as well. My specialty, I ran the Olympics, Junior Olympics in Berlin, and was a silver medalist. And I did seven different disciplines. I did heptathlon, and my number one was sprints. I was 200 and 400-meter sprints. I did high jump, far jump, shot put, relay. I also swam. I went and kayaked. I went down raging rivers and waterfalls. I surf. I've been always very, very competitive. I did speed skating, but my number one thing that I loved was track and field.
And you probably could run with the best of them. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And things like that. No, for sure. Was there one sport that you were like, nah, I can't do that one? Was it soccer? Like you spoke about the ones and stuff like that. Was there one sport like particularly like I want to avoid it and things like that?
no.
No.
But what I had, I didn't have a good vertical, which was crazy because I have 18-inch calves, and people would say, well, you have these big calves, you should have good vertical. I was like, it's technique. Jumping really is technique and training. And even though I did high jump, my far jump was much better than my high jump. And I just wasn't like I can shoot a basket, I can, I can lay it, I can, there's no way I could ever dunk a ball. I don't think so. And so that was, yeah, I loved basketball, but I knew that there was no future in it for me.
You're
It's
six
just,
one. I would have just set a screen,
you know.
pick and roll. I'll just pass you the ball. You're right there for the layup all day, every day. You know what I mean? I love it. I love it. Speak to because I feel like it's a pressing conversation right now, and I know there's a lot of women that listen to the podcast. Like when I look at my stats, a lot of it's like 50-50 now. Speak to women in their 30s, going into their 40s, their 50s. What are some ways they can start identifying early signs of menopause and what they should be doing when it comes down to consultation, like the doctor or physician and things like that?
Great question. The first one I noticed when you're in menopause is you pulling a lot of water in your legs or in your abdominal sac. If you're eating healthy and you're training well, I'm talking about, not abusing your body. I noticed that the pulling of the water, heat flashes, crankiness, and it's not, and the period disappears. Um, and some women go in menopause in their early 40s and they have really irregular periods. So that's a big sign. And then waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to go to bed to sleep. All of those are part of the estrogen and progesterone not being in balance. Um, and the biggest thing I think you can do is to look at your stress level, first of all. Women tend to having to do a lot of things besides just getting a job and being an entrepreneur. They have to be mothers, they have to be, be in shape. There's so many hats women have to wear. She's supposed to look good, she's supposed to have her own money, she's supposed to be a great mom, she's supposed to be a great lover, she's supposed to be a wholesome woman. I mean, there's just so many, and I think it can stress a woman out a lot. And just finding balance is one of the hardest things, and getting enough sleep. All the studies that we see and are on men. They're not on women. So they've always said, oh, 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Well, women actually need 9 to 10 hours of sleep. And women also have different cycles. They cannot go low carbs right around their periods, the week before their period, because it changes the progesterone. So there's a lot of things that women cannot do. I always say, don't eat like a man and don't train like a man, because your body is just very different. And men are top heavy, women are bottom heavy. So we are much stronger in our legs than usually men, and men are stronger in their upper bodies. So the balance of balancing it out. But in general, for women, I think in their 40s and 50s, I always say by the time you hit 50, you want to be in the best shape of your life, because it gets really hard after 50. And if you're in your 40s and you're listening right now, get into the gym and don't wait for motivation, because motivation is when your friends tell you you can do it. That's it. But everything else is just discipline. You have to say, okay, it's just like having, if you want to have a savings or you want to have a bank account, if you have money in your bank account, it's discipline to go to work. It's the same thing for your body, and your body will be your biggest asset you will ever have. So start early, get into a routine, and you don't have to do an hour a day. You can do 10 minutes a day and have 70 minutes done a week, and check your nutrition in a part, and you're better off that way. And also, when you go into menopause, up your proteins. Protein and fats are super important for our brain function, for our muscle function, for so many things, and not the sugars.
Once in a while, we can have just a little gummy bear
Hell
here and
yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
I have my champagne and I have my pizza, and
Right?
of course, yeah.
Right?
Try to have a balance. I always say Monday to Friday, I'm really good, and then on the weekends, I have fun. But I never overeat.
I love that you say that. There's so much power with this, everything you broke down there, because a lot of folks think they can just willy nilly I can just grab the pizza from Domino's and I can be good and I can eat that every other day. And it's like, no,
No.
no. And if you're not active, like you got to be active. Like I've was had a guest on. He's a range and motion coach, and I said to him, I was like, since March, I've cut out junk food. I mean, no cookies, no pop, and I'm not saying I overconsume it, but like I was just out with one of my guys the other on the weekend. He goes, dude, you lost a lot of weight in your face. You can see that you're starting to like trim up. And I said, yeah, because you can't be doing the necessary BS anymore. Especially when you get older, it's different. You sleep better now. Your rest, your relaxation, you have the pressures of the world and content creation and podcasting and other people in your ear. And you gotta just process by elimination, because if you don't treat your mind and your body well, what's gonna happen to the rest of everything? You know what I mean? You're just breaking your body down. So by the time you hit 50, it's like game over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can
Yeah.
poison your body and your mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think the people that you surround yourself with can either poison you or benefit you. And when you have people around you that are actually not of your goal setting or the things that you want to do, they can bring you down in your mind stability by 30%. 30%, that's huge. And if we have people around us that are actually of our wavelength, I call it, people that are doing what you want to do or have already established it or are on the same drive as you, they will lift you up by 15%. And I think it's so important for your mindset. And then surround yourself with people that are wanting to be healthy. If you're constantly around people that are eating pizza, you're going to end up eating pizza. It's just bottom line. If you're around druggies, at some point, you're going to start using. It's just bottom line is show me your friends and I show you your future.
Mm, power behind that. So let's speak to you now, because you're active. You like I get it as a content creator, but you do a lot of different things. How do you find the balance between the gym, your personal life, and like everything that you're wanting to encompass in your ecosystem? And what can ladies and or men even learn from that?
I schedule. I stick to a schedule. I'm very disciplined. That's the number one thing. I have two children. One is 20 and one is 26 that I was mom and dad for them. And I just had to schedule. I live by a tight schedule. At some point, I built a training business, and at one point I had like 27 people in one day. And it was a lot. And then also I competed during that time, so I worked out twice a day. and also the commercials and acting. I didn't do as much TV and film when they were little because I just couldn't commit to it, to where now that's why I'm on HBO shows and other things, because I now have um, more time for myself. They're more self-sufficient now. But the number one thing I always say is you got to be disciplined. You got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, can sleep in, go to bed early. I go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. And by the time 10 o'clock hits, I've already done 5 hours of work. And I think the most productive time is the first hour to first 2 hours of the day. And when it's quiet and you don't have to do anything else, I think that's the key. So for all the women that have small children, and they want to get something accomplished, you have to get up before your kids, and I know it's fine, but then you have to go to bed with them. If they go to bed at 8 o'clock, you should be in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock too. And yes, you have to stay focused. You can't be out partying. You can't be staying out late watching TV. I didn't watch a lot of TV. I just read a lot. I wanted to grow, and scheduling was everything. And then what I do at night is I don't go on social media at night. I don't. I get my journal out and I write down everything I've done for the day, literally everything. From if I had to do laundry, to have a business meeting, to making lunch, to working out, I write down everything, and it usually is 20 things that I've done for the day easily. But it just sorts things out in your brain, because I think we stress ourselves and we feel like we haven't accomplished enough. I mean, I go through that, and then the anxiety kicks in, and now you're not doing enough. And then I write down only 3 things of the things that I want to accomplish the next day. I can't write down more, just the 3 most important things. And while I'm sleeping, my subconscious mind is already preparing me for the next day for those 3 things. And it's pretty powerful how the body and the mind are connected, how we take care of the things that we wrote down the night before.
No, I love that you say that because scheduling is the most important thing. And I'm not trying to like call anybody out, but it's like you even go to book certain things. Some, friends will be like, hey, like, what do you got going on here? Let's meet for coffee, or hey, let's do this or do that. And it's like, let me check my schedule. And vice versa. It's like if someone, when I ask them, they don't say that I have to check my schedule, then I'm like, really? Like, because I get life be lifing. Not everybody's a creator or an entrepreneur, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like you work. I hope you're working. I hope you're going to school, doing whatever you're doing. But if you don't ever go into your schedule, I'm like, how do you balance things? Your schedule is the number one thing. That's the reason why we have it on our iPhones or your Android or whatever you're using, or you have your computer, your iPad. We have these devices for a reason. It's not just there to do FaceTime or talk on the phone or create content. It's the productivity tools and it's the habits. And that's what you're speaking to. So it's like,
Absolutely.
what are your habits? What's your gold standard when it comes down to your habits? What are your non-negotiables? What can you live and not live without? You know what I mean? And things like
Yeah,
that.
and the most successful people have really good habits, and they are very disciplined with their time, and they respect other people's time. One of my biggest pet peeves is people not respecting other people's time. It just drives me nuts. It's like, if you cancel on me twice, I will never ever meet with you again.
We come from the same school. We come from the same school. And sometimes I'll be honest, it's like even within the first time, the first attempt, you know what I mean? I get life. Like I'll use this as a fun fact. We've been scheduling this podcast, and this I'm going to give people learning lessons here. We've been trying to schedule a podcast. I know you're a busy person. I'm also a busy person. So it's like I've shot out a couple dates. You're like your PR team, things like that. Like, it's not going to work. But you know what? It's constant, frequent communication. It's because you care to want to come on the show, and I care to want to sit down and talk with you. If we were closer, it'd be in studio. You know what I mean? But it's what we're trying to say is that life can happen, but you don't miss opportunities because here's the thing: is if you want it to happen, it will. But too many times, it's the excuses. And I'm just like, I can't deal with the excuses anymore. I can't, especially at my age. I can't. Like,
You said something really powerful. You said, if you want to make it happen, you will make it happen. We make time for what we want. And if If you showing me that I am not worth your time, then why would I make time for you? I agree with you. The time is the only golden thing that we have. We don't know how much of it we have. We don't know if we die tomorrow or not. But our time is our biggest asset, and I think we need to be really careful who we spend it with and how we spend it. And if you have people around you that don't respect that time or schedule themselves, I'm like, what are you doing with your life?
So true. So true. Let's get back into the active lifestyle because I feel this is very important for a lot of folks because I've listened to a couple different podcasts lately where it's like training, right? And I understand not everybody wants to train the same, but you spoke to it at the beginning of the podcast. You were talking about, our muscles and things like that, and like how we start having our bodies slowly starting to break down. When it comes down to strength training, speak to the importance of that for women, and then let's speak to the importance of it for men. Because I feel like a lot of women have this, you've probably heard this. I don't want to work out. I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get big. But
I
it's
don't
like,
want to get big, the whole getting big. I remember when I competed and women would tell me that, I'm like, honey, you're giving yourself too much credit. Do you know how much work it takes to get big, actually? We get big. What are we talking about? Big muscles or big? Don't want to look big because we get big from eating big. And to me, weightlifting is longevity. It is your free tool to slow down aging. It is your free tool to age with grace and well, to stay sharp in your brain. It is we weight train, we are actually creating cell repair and cell renewal in our body, which is that's your superpower. You ever want to be like Superman or Supergirl? Start lifting weights because auto, autophagy happens when we're lifting weights. And people do all this fasting and everything, which I'm a strong believer in fasting once or twice a year, sometimes even more, depending on where you are. But lifting weights does that every time. And I believe that everybody should lift weights 10 to 30 minutes a day.
I love that you say it because it's you got to protect your body. Like even runners, like I know some predominant runners that are doing 5K ultra marathons. They're all lifting weights. And like I tell this to people and they're like, "No, they're not." I'm like, "Okay. If you think they're just going to run out there and do all that high distance and they're not lifting, and it's not saying you have to lift to, exhaustion, but make your body, make that temple strong, right? Like
The
me, I'm back on this old program that I'm doing. It's a lot of hypertrophy training, things like that, right? But I know at my age, I fool people with my age all the time. So when I even say my age, some people are like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm 41. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, I'm 41. You know what I mean? And I don't look my age. But then I look at some other folks that are 41 and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you look like you're 60. You know what I mean? And it's no disrespect, but it's like, what are your habits? What are you doing? What are your foundation? What is your building blocks? Do you have accountability partners? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
speak to this, like for yourself, your discipline, your regime. Who's the first person you go to as an accountability partner?
Oh, that's a great question. Who's the first person I go to for my accountability partner? My mirror? Really?
Really?
I look in the mirror, I'm like, I'm a very high standard for myself. Um, and I'm in the business of motivating people. And I think acting has really helped me to have a big purpose as far as why I work so hard because um, my physicality was my way in to get the roles that I wanted because I want to do drama, action movies, and all of that. Um, but really, maybe my sister. I have an identical twin, and she's my number one person that will be very honest with me and tell me, look, what do you think? Do I need to dial in? But um, in general, I think it's the mirror for me. I know we need accountability people. We need people that help us. For acting, it's different for me. but for my physicality, for my body, it's myself. I really am very disciplined, and I look in the mirror and say, some people call me too critical, and say, I don't see what you see, but that's just who I am. I just know how I like to feel. I know how I like to look. I have a photo shoot in New York next week, Monday, and I dial in for it. I set myself photo shoots. So maybe my accountability is setting goals for myself. Oh, that's a good question. I never thought about that. I set goals, and my goals are my accountability, because I do short-term goals. I don't like long-term goals. I just love, okay, give me 30 days and I'll dial in. Give me 60 days. And that doesn't mean that I don't have a goal for next year, but I break my goal down. So I have a 1 year goal, and then I break it down into smaller goals, because otherwise it's too overwhelming. And photo shoots have been really a big way to motivate myself and keep myself disciplined. And then, I do a lot of physicality commercials, like I did the Tina Fey, and I had to be buff Tina Fey. So I had to be really ripped. And I'm like, I'm going to be seen on Super Bowl, with millions of people. I'm going to look my best. So those are my ways of staying disciplined.
I love that you say that. And it's not to put you on the spot. It's because it's something that I live by. And I think that's the first thing you want to do. Everybody will say maybe it's their husband or their girlfriend or their best friend. But the mirror is actually the biggest reflection that we have, because it's the first thing we look at in the morning, believe it or not. A lot of people are like, wait, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Because when you wake up in the morning, you're washing your face, you're brushing your teeth, and you're going to the washroom. Maybe not in that order. But you have to look at that mirror, because you walk by it and you look. We all do it. Like
Yeah.
you get up, you're whatever, and you look at the mirror, because that is your accountability partner of how you're going to show up and how you're going to start your day. And maybe talk to yourself and hype yourself up. Be your own cheerleader. Sometimes you got a round of applause for yourself. I'm not saying you got to do it from an egotistical way, but you have to do it from a way that makes sense to you. Be like, hey, listen, I'm setting up my day. I want to conquer. This is what I want to do. You know?
Self-love, man. You loving
Mm.
yourself. And I always say, if I can stand in the front of the mirror naked and love myself, I'm like, I'm doing good, you know. And there was a time I didn't feel that way, when the pandemic hit, and I was just like everybody else. What do you do at home? You have a glass of wine and you watch a show, or you have way too much time on your hand. And the film industry was shut down. We weren't allowed to meet anybody. You were not going out to eat, so you're sitting at home. And I put on 10, 15 pounds. And I remember I did a body sculpting class, and I record all my classes, and I saw myself, and I was not happy with what I looked like. So I had a third view eye of myself, and it's like, nope, that's not how I want to look like. And I checked myself and said, what do I cut out first? Sugars.
Love that
And
you
of
say
course,
that. Love that you say that. So speak to this being on set, right? Because I know that's a task within itself. There's a lot of moving parts. What was your first time being on set? And what was the first thing you told yourself? Were you like, I can do this? Or you were like, I don't know. How was it for you when you started being on set?
I was excited, I was exhilarated. I was like, the first ones I did were all national commercials. I did, I think, 15 national commercials so far. And I come from improv. I was 15 years old. I wrote my own stuff. I come from comedy, and I um, was always comfortable on stage and always knew I was going to be there. The biggest moment for me was when I was directed by Angela Bassett on American Horror Story. And I remember Kathy Bates came out of the room. We were in a green room, and I had to go in after her. And that was a moment where I was like, oh shit. There was a bit of an imposter syndrome happening, because here I'm being with A-list people. Um, you have, when you walk into the green room, she's right there, and then Ryan Murphy was there, and everybody else, and Kathy Bates comes out and in her strong demeanor and everything, and talking, and then they're resetting stuff, and you're going in. It was, and I had to do a British accent. It was nerve-wracking a little bit, but I had a great coach who always told me being anxious and being excited is the same feeling in the body.
Mm, I love that.
So just
I
go with
love that.
excited. And I just left with excited, and then we build and build and build. And that was the first time. And then when I went to Charleston last year, and I'm opposite of Walton Goggins filming, and Danny McBride, and John Goodman is right next to me. And there was a moment I was like, holy shit, I did it. I'm this little German girl that came over to the United States and is on this television. Now I'm in Germany, and they're showing my show in Germany. And it felt, there was a moment I was like, wow, you can do this. You got this. They called you here for a reason. And it was phenomenal.
I love that. I love that. And it speaks to being human because there's going to be those times. Listen, I've had that. I've had that moment. I was out one time. Donovan Bailey, Canadian sprinter, right? Won the gold medal 1996. Walked into the venue, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's Donovan Bailey!" But from my background, I was like, "This is an opportunity." And I asked him two questions. But there's that aura that you get with certain folks. And when I felt that aura, you can feel certain people's presence. So I get when you speak about the ones that you spoke about.
Mhm.
But I want to spin a question to you where it's like, when you're in those spaces, when it comes down to maybe overhearing certain conversations or even receiving feedback, how important is that for you for your now career as being on TV, being on these commercials and things like that?
Well, it is important. It is important when Danny McBride says to you, wow, your comedic timing is off the charge, or Walton Goggins say, wow, you're really good and you're really fun. Those moments are important. These are veterans. These are people that have done amazing things, and it does go down like butter. I mean, it's not, it does feel, because, being in the fitness field or as an actor is a very lonely role. When I ran track and then I was in Jamaica and running track with all the Olympic athletes in Jamaica, I felt like, wow, and they're training hardcore. I thought I was training hard before, but that is a whole nother level of training. And but getting the feedback that you are good, or that you have the potential, and that what you're doing, all that hard work when nobody's watching, because you're just grinding, you showing up when nobody is showing up, or when nobody's telling you to go and show up, nobody's telling you to study, nobody, and you're doing all that, and then you are there in that moment, because you're only creating the success when you prepare and an opportunity arrives. You have to be prepared for that opportunity, and then success happens. And as good, no matter what opportunity comes around, if you're not prepared for it, you're not going to have success in it. So that's what I basically get from that, is all my preparation, my vision. I knew I needed to know how to do martial arts. I knew I needed to be good at my craft and have nuances. I knew I need to have a physicality, and all of that sauce that I could put together brought me to this moment. And my friend Nicole Ari Parker always said to me, everything you have done in the past gotten you to this point. And I think you need to have a really strong vision of what you want to do, and then get to work and just have earmuffs on. You just gotta, even because in our industry, we get a lot of no's. As athletes, we don't win all the time. As actors, there's so many no's. And to still believe in your dream. As entrepreneurs, there's so many setbacks. But what is a setback, or what is a hard work? Oh, there's no failure, because I feel like failure means when you come into a stop sign, you just got to learn how to not have a stop sign again, or to get yourself back up. It's never how hard you fall. It's always how fast do you get back up, and just get back to it.
Mm, power. A lot of power to what you said there. The audience, man, telling you, pen and paper. This is these moments, right? For yourself, because you're so active. You productive. I don't want to say busy. You're so productive. How do you give back to yourself, and what does that fulfillment feel like for you?
I give myself back. How do I give back to myself? I love traveling. I love adventures. I mean, I really live in my passion. you know. So I love to read. I like to have a quiet moment and have to myself and be quiet and not have anybody around me. Get massages. I don't know. I love self-care a lot. It just gives that to me. And then when we travel, I like to stay in nice hotels. I like to be, and the accomplishments that I had give me the financial freedom to do so, So I think financial freedom is a big one for me. Um, to give myself back, and then just being around really positive people. We all have the choice to be around positive people or not, and that's how I give back to myself. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Speak to community. It's building a community versus building a following, because
Mm.
where you're at now, you have a lot of eyes. So how do you balance between building that community and building that following so you're not getting lost between the mix?
Staying grounded. I meditate every day, and I am all about being grateful and grounded, and really being grateful for what I have, and giving back to my community, and helping other people to think positive about themselves is really big on me. I'm part of a organization called Jones Wishlist. I'm a child of domestic violence and abuse. From a child of being abused 1 to 10, I'm at 12, as my therapist has said to me. I've learned to stay positive in all of it and to not let the negative mind take over. And I help others to stay in their positivity through working out, because working out really, I've never seen anybody when they work out feel bad afterwards. Everybody felt great afterwards. And how do we talk to ourselves? Because our mind is always trying to protect us, right? It's a flight or fight kind of deal. We live in the 200 frequency of our brain in that negative state. But once we get to a higher frequency of 400, with meditation and self-talk and affirmations, all these bring us to a higher frequency, is where we then create healthy cells and healthy habits and healthy relationships, great communication. Because when you speak from a place of positivity, you have great communication. And I think that I just enjoy creating a community of people that help one another, speak positive to each other. To me, it's really not about the likes. It's not about the followers. It's really about living your passion. And I still answer my own the messages, and when people reach out to me, I think it's you need to stay personal. Um, I do have a system where if somebody leaves me a message and they want to have my free ebook, I lead them to my website. But if they have further questions, I always answer them myself. And I hope that there will come a time where um, I know that once you get to millions, and it's going to be harder to do that, but we'll also have to weed through all the bullshitters. I mean, we all know the creeps and all of that I'm not interested in. And thank God through social media, there's now a site where they are already blocked automatically. But the ones that really want help and really want to need support, I'm always there. I always have an ear for them, and my community is why I call them the peaceful warriors, or the warriors, because it's a world out there that we have to be a warrior in. You have to stay positive, you have to grind all the time, and why not help each other to go through that? And that's really my mission, is to do that. And the foundation that I'm on, Jones Wish List, we help children and women and men to get out of domestic violent relationships or moments, and help them to have a better life, and help the children to not grow up in that kind of environment.
I love that. I love that. And we need more of that in this community. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's like social media, because there's so much you talk about BS, right? and I say this to folks all the time. I don't get the bullshit messages as far as like the solicitation of like foolishness. A lot of it's just like, oh, you should sign up for this and get your following this and get your follow. I'm like, okay, leave me alone. But as far as like a lot of the encouragement you see, like I was just at the gym the other day and I did a podcast down here, went on a guest spot. And this young man walked up to me and he's like, I saw you on a podcast. And he's like, I was trying to think about it. And he's like, oh, the such and such person's podcast. And I was like, thank you. Amazing. And it's what I say to folks is like, you kind of have to look at that as those are the stepping stones in your blocks of success. You probably get that as well, where folks recognize you. And there's some folks that you hear where they're like, they've seen some of their heroes and they are just very different. It's like, get away from me, whatever. But it's like when I was on the bench, because I was just about to start my bench and I took the headphone out and I'm like locked in, focused. And it's kind of like, I felt like I should have apologized. I was like, hey, what's up? And then he told me, it's like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Because I had to come bring it back around. Because it's like, you don't know if that person's asking for a spot or can I work in with you? Because I'm not trying to work in with you. I'm here by myself. You know what I mean? Things like that. But it just speaks to a lot of that, like, you don't know who's watching you at any given time, right? And you sometimes have to just always cherish those moments and just say thank you and give yourself that grace. I say that all the time because you just never flipping know. Like that person, you never know. You might run into somebody, you roll your ankle coming outside. They'll be like, hey, I remember you. You're on this commercial, this and that. You're on that podcast. And those are those wholesome moments, you know?
I agree. I think if you come from a place of love and not ego, that's always the best way. I have had fathers reach out to me and telling me that their daughters have a different way of thinking now because they look at my social media and because of my messages, because I believe that we're all unique, and I was teased being so tall and so athletic looking and, you know, um, teenage years are really hard to find yourself and then being put down by your peers because they don't understand how you're so unique, and that's your superpowers, and women or other girls are now inspired by it, and that makes me so happy because I just want to inspire others to just be yourself and live your passions and don't worry about what the norm is. Who needs an expensive bag and these shoes that have red paint underneath them? Who cares? It's nobody cares about them but other women to compete with each other. Why? So what I care about, do your legs, are they healthy walking in those heels, instead of how much you paid for them, because that's your value. And I never ever took value in money, except for, yes, it gives you freedom and to travel and these things, but it wasn't so much for me to have a status. It just has to be a quality of life that I like. Um, and to inspire others to go after their dreams, and it doesn't have to be with a huge following. You can start in your own neighborhood and inspire others by the way you live, by holding somebody's door, or like you said, being there when somebody comes to you at the gym and wants to say something to you, and because you inspired them. I had a woman, I was about to do a pull-up and she comes over to me because I use a pull-up machine. I always use a machine for multiple things because gyms usually are too packed for me. And so I do 3 different exercises on one machine usually. And she came over and said, so why are you doing this? And instead of saying, hey, I'm in the middle of my workout, I don't want to talk to you, I explained to her. I said, okay, this is why this happens and why are you doing this? And she was really grateful for it. I think just that little extra goes a long way.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's even when you could be even in a grocery store or you're somewhere and you're doing whatever it is you're doing. And you may walk across somebody. Like I was just at the gym today and there's a part where you have this buzzer part of the door. It's like a private place you can work out because they had to extend the gym. And one of the workers that works there, he always gives you the high, like the nod and things like that. He's coming this way and I'm going in. And he just, bowed his head. And it's like, you take those moments and you're like, hey, acknowledge or hey, what's up and things like that. Because I think if more people in the world were just to say hi or thank you, it makes somebody's day becomes so much more rewarding because you don't know what that person could be going through, right? Or it could be that time in that moment where somebody may just be there. Like, it was on Saturday. I was at the gym. It's kind of funny. They're just always at the gym now, right? And there's something with the buzzer. And I look out the window and there's a young girl there. And I was like, you know what? Let me just get my card. I went through the place, because the card clearly wasn't working. And then she's like, look frustrated. I was like, hey, come in. And she's like, oh, thank you. I was like, don't worry. I got you. Welcome. And it saves her that moment because now I look at it from, you can't save everybody, but I look at it from this perspective. She came to the gym. I don't know what's going on with the buzzer, right? Of why it's not working. Clearly, I've seen her in the gym. So it's like, look, let me go help assist her because she may have to now go back home, figure out what's going on. She can't work out. Now she's depressed for the whole entire evening. And now you know what I mean? So it's like those little moments go a far way. And it's not like you want anything in return, but it's like you want those moments to continue to keep going. And if more folks just take that ample, they don't
Yeah.
want to though, you know?
Yeah. No, I love it. Love it. My favorite thing to do is give women compliments because I think women giving other women compliments means so much more because it doesn't come with an agenda. It comes only with, I just want to inspire you and want to tell you how beautiful you are or how I admire what you're doing on, and it's gonna make their day. And they might have that day needed to hear that for themselves to keep going or to they may have had a bad day, but how beautiful is it that somebody else can give another woman a compliment? It comes from another woman, you know. I just think that women should definitely inspire each other.
It's funny you say that because men do it too. Men do it too. And
Yeah.
it's actually interesting. Like I was doing step ups in one of my workouts. And one of my guys that I've known for 15 years is like, bro, I'm looking at you doing the step ups. And he's like, I see your legs. I'm like, damn, this man getting big in his legs. I was like, yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't weird, but I'm like, that's like a brother to me. So every time we talk, I'm just always championing him and stuff like that. We get on each other's nerves because it's like a sports thing or whatever, or maybe it's like a gaming thing. But it's
Yeah.
always love at the end of the day. And it's like
Yeah.
those compliments, ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting to the end of the podcast, compliment that person. Maybe that person you didn't talk to today, or it's been a week, or it's been 2 weeks. Check in. 10-second voice note. I'm thinking about you. Hey, girl. Hey, boy. Hey, guy. What's going on? What's up? You know, is everything good? Because if you don't know what people are going through, it could be the littlest thing, the littlest thing. And I think that what I'm speaking to is that the world is such a messed up place as it is. So we need folks like yourself, folks like myself, to really just keep shining that torch, that light in the right positive direction because you know it. There's so much fluff out here. There's so many people that are projecting their own insecurities, their own trauma, their own issues. And we don't got time for that. We don't. We don't have time for that. We want to be in our sacred container with men and women that just want to rally with us and champion us and go through life because life is as hard as it is. You got to pay taxes. Money goes in the bank, it comes out the bank. It's all this shit that we got to deal with. But it's like life be lifing. So live it to the best of your ability, you know?
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
For sure. Before we get out of here, though, right? How are you looking to fulfill? This is so wild. There's like 6 more months left to the end of the year. What is going to be the ultimate fulfillment for you for the rest of 2025 going into 2026? Close us out.
I'm going to do another movie and another TV show. We just finished filming another TV show, so that's on my agenda. I want to reach the world with my online program, partyanddiet.com. With I have all my programs on there. They're super affordable. I wanted that because I wanted to inspire people to just take action and just start moving. 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, and that's really my goal for this year.
Love that you say that. And you know what? I'm going to watch your journey because I got to learn some cool things. It was like you said, you're 6. I didn't know you're that tall. I was like, wait, she's a skyscraper. You know what I mean? And I love that. You know what I mean? And things like that. But before we get out of here, plug all your information, your social media, your programs, things like that, where everybody can check you out and all that good stuff.
Love all your questions, by the way. Awesome. My Instagram is Party and Diet, and my website is partyanddiet.com. You can also find me under Kerstin Schulze, and my programs are Fitness for the Busy Lifestyle, and it's all for home workouts, travel workouts, and then I have a track workout as well, and a 16-week transformation program that's all for the gym. And this is the program that I use to get on stage, and it's bulletproof. It works. Trust me.
I love that. She said it's bulletproof, folks. I'm gonna make sure no, because this is the thing. I'm gonna make sure I plug all that in the show notes. You know what I mean? And anything that I need to share out as it's like hyping up for promotion, I'm gonna make sure I send it out as well because the community needs to. They need folks that are just like I said, blazing a trail and shining that torch. You know what I mean? Because we need more of it out there instead of all this nonsensical things that are going on social media and things like
I
that.
agree. And if anybody
Yeah.
wants to try it, I'm giving a full month free. Go log on, use Party15, the code, and you have a whole month free. Try it out. If you don't like it, move on. But I have a feeling you might like it.
Of course. I'm going to make sure I plug all that in the show notes and stuff like that and all that good stuff. I appreciate you. All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Perfect.